Good morning. Welcome back to Market Day Report as we get things rolling here on a Friday. And let's look at how the markets were settling in the overnight session. Okay, we'll start with the corn market in Chicago. Down 6 1/4 on the D's at 431 3/4. That pressure spilling over as well into the other markets. But remember, we're moving into delivery on that December contract. Penny lower on the others for the most part. What about soybeans and the overnight session for beans? Lower, down 5 on the January. March down 6 at 997 1/4. I had the Goldman roll going this week. May contract off 5 3/4 cents. And over to the wheat market, we'll start with Chicago and the July contract at 573 1/2, penny and a half lower. So just really adding to the losses from yesterday's session during the day. Hard red, half penny lower, 577 1/2 on the July. And spring wheat, Minneapolis, 603 1/4, up 3/4 of a cent on the March contract. Finally, New York cotton futures lower again. The March contract down 61 at 69.48. Brian Hoops is president, Midwest Market Solutions. Brian, one thing I didn't mention in here is flash sale overnight, unknown destination soybeans.
Yes, good morning. We had another sale. We had one yesterday, 334,000 metric tons. Had another sale this morning, 200,000 metric tons. Both of these are to that unknown destination category. It's significant and may support the soybeans a little bit. They were the biggest losers overnight, but they're still holding some technical support. They can't get above resistance because of the good growing conditions. Maybe ahead of the weekend, they find a little bit of hedging pressure or some selling interest. But I think it's worth noting that we saw those export numbers out yesterday, export sales report, and we talked about those. And we talked about some of these private sale announcements that they are actually hedges against prices, against the values of what they do in the springtime. There's still about 125 million bushels on the books that China has booked but has not taken shipment of. That's a significant amount. That does not include the unknown destination category. That's just China. If, in fact, some of these purchases that China has made get canceled, it goes back into our ending stocks category and comes off of those books. So it's a significant amount and really could change the balance sheets between now and maybe January, February, if we do see some of these cancellations. So it's something that the trade is talking about keeping in mind for your listeners. Argentina updated their planting progress. They're about 2/3 done with corn and soybeans right now. Brazil's virtually wrapped up, especially with the first corn harvest. Argentina's 2/3 done. It's a little bit ahead of normal, ahead of last year's pace. Things are off to a really good start. In fact, they had some rains overnight in parts of Argentina, and then by the weekend, there's more rain in the forecast. So nothing wrong with the forecast. We'll see if we can hold these support areas or if we just start to work our way lower and find some sell stops as we push prices lower.
All right, Brian, hang on. We'll take a break, come back, and we'll talk proteins in a moment. That's livestock futures coming up next. Market Day Report continues. All right, so we're trying to track this down. Looks like we might have had some cash sales yesterday at 192 in the South. We know we had 191 earlier in the week and thought we were finished, but maybe a little cleanup action at 192. Also hearing some rumblings of 193 to 195 in the North. Of course, we want to track that down to be sure. Dress prices have been around 300 or so. We'll know for sure by the end of the day today. But how about the markets yesterday? We'll go to live cattle. A bit of a sell-off, down 52 on the February at 190.85. The April contract at 192.17 was off 45. By the way, if in fact we did have cash at 192, doesn't that take us back to where we were back in July? I think so, on the cash side. What about feeders? Well, yesterday we saw lower trade with the March down 80 at 258.57 and the August at 263.57. Hog trade Again, hogs have been trading up 23% year to date. February, 84.47. That was a dime higher. But we lost the $100 mark for the June contract as it slipped to 99.77, but still 25 higher on the session. Let's bring back in Brian Hoops, Midwest Market Solutions. Again, that cash trade, even at 191 is pretty good, but if we see that 192 or even 195 in the north, that's knocking it out of the park.
Yes, it would be. We've heard that 95, haven't been able to confirm that. I think the 92 that was traded was on the Fed Cattle Exchange online auction. So that was some good numbers there. Maybe not a large quantity, but overall, so far it looks like anyway, at least 190, 191, maybe some 192 have been traded. That's going to be a little bit better than a week ago. And on a dress basis, we saw some yesterday, $3 to maybe $5 better than the previous week. So cash trade's coming in good. The cutout values were stronger midday and the closing bell. Now, we didn't have a very strong technical close. As you read through those numbers, those are near the lows of the trading session, kind of reversed after the early morning highs. We're probably going to see some follow-through selling on the opening. Maybe we'll get some hedge lifting to bias our way out of some early session losses. But I think we want to try and trade higher going into the weekend at some point. But again, hedging pressure is probably going to creep into these markets. A lot of interest in locking in some of these higher price levels because 2-3 months ago, when guys were buying these calves, they were buying them at much cheaper money. The outlook wasn't as strong. There's good profit potential here, and we certainly want to look at doing some sort of a option strategy, hedge strategy to lock in these values.
Okay, I want to slide over to our outside markets and one that's a fairly new market, the Bitcoin market. Again, hitting another high with Bitcoin in overnight trade, and so we just continue to see that move higher. I mean, I remember when we hit 80,000 just, 6 weeks ago or so, and now well over 100,000. I also want to kind of bring us over to the Dow, because yesterday made the 6th day of consecutive losses on the Dow, while at the same time, the NASDAQ has been seeing record closes. What can you really discern from all of this?
Well, you go back to Bitcoin 6 weeks ago, you mentioned we hit 80,000. Well, about 6 weeks ago was also a presidential election, and President Trump was elected. He is an advocate of Bitcoin, as well as a lot of his cabinet members. So we're seeing a surge in Bitcoin values, I think, as a result of the Trump election victory. Tech stocks remain strong going into 2025. No reason to think that they won't. The dollar has also shot higher over the last 4, 5, 6 trading sessions, bouncing off technical support. It's down a little bit today, but the trend is back to the upside. And we saw big losses in gold and silver yesterday and again overnight this morning, despite the fact that some of the CPI, PPI numbers came in showing inflation is increasing. And that's usually a sign to buy gold and silver, but it hasn't been over the last 2 trading sessions.
Brian, always great to see you. Thanks for the insight. We'll see you back here on Monday. Brian Hoops, Midwest Market Solutions.